by the name of Ronnie Brown. His only marquee game was in that win against the Patriots. The Wildcat was officially kicked off over with the Dolphins a few years ago, but for Ronnie Brown, he's not the running back you hope to carry this football team against as good of a defensive line. I feel like the most underrated defensive line in the league, with Richard Seymour anchoring that front. I feel like for the Raiders, it's as long as you can have that secondary contain these big play receivers. The Chargers do have three solid wideouts. As long as the Raiders can contain that, I feel like the Oakland has the chance of a running away kind of game. Obviously, Oakland already driving on their first series.
Yeah, it's interesting. You say, you don't know what you're going to get out of Phillip Rivers. Well, Raiders fans will tell you they definitely don't know what they're going to get out of Carson Palmer. Since making the trade for him, he threw more interceptions than touchdowns last year. Obviously, he was thrown into the fire. No mini camps, no preseason, no practice. But it's another big question mark. You don't know what you're going to get out of Carson Palmer. I've never really been much of a fan of him. Luckily, he has Darren McFadden and that, surely above average running game to help bail him out. They are driving right now. They're about the 47-yard line in Chargers territory here, so they are definitely moving the ball at least somewhat effectively right now. But I think it's a toss-up because both of these teams do have plenty of question marks, so we'll see what happens here. The Chargers almost had an interception a player or two ago trying to get a screen pass to Darren McFadden, so we'll see how that goes. Any scoring plays, like I said, I will bring up and we can discuss from there. But overall, I can agree. I can see you picking either team in this situation, and it is a toss-up, typical division rivalry on Monday night.
Yeah, and for you guys that are trying to tune in and trying to get to this highly anticipated Monday night matchup between the Chargers and the Raiders, obviously a divisional game. It goes either way, and with all the question marks, it just makes it that much more intriguing of a matchup. And for the San Diego Chargers, I don't see them winning this game, but obviously it all depends on Phillip Rivers, along with Palmer over on Oakland's side. Carson Palmer did, in fact, lead the National Football League in the preseason with the most interceptions of any quarterback in this exhibition season. And for this matchup, you guys can make sure we will give you all the updates that you need to know in this big game, and Phil will bring it right to you. But before we get over to that update, Phil, from your Philadelphia Faithful, from a last-second loss for Penn State, obviously you probably don't want to go too much into that game, but for the Eagles, an ugly win against a not-so-good football team, the Cleveland Browns, on the transition. For Phil, in this game, I mean, what can you take out of a last-second win? Mike Vick, a terrible game with 4 picks, but did have the key touchdown that mattered on 56 passing attempts.
Well, before I get to that, I would love to prolong me having to talk about that game. I would like to throw in a game break here. The Raiders just fumbled the ball, and the Chargers were able to recover it at about their own, let's see, where are we? Close to probably the 30-yard line, so the Chargers get the ball and stall the Raiders the drive here, so they get the ball. And I also learned, I did not know that Takeo Spikes was on the Chargers. I didn't realize he was still playing. Mm-hmm. And that's a player I've always liked, so that's pretty awesome for me. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. The Eagles game was definitely difficult to watch because you look at this game and you know that you're the better team. You watch the game, in one play, they had 30, 40-yard strikes and just couldn't connect. And Michael Vick, reading his, interviews on NFL.com this week, he was just saying, I, for the first time, did not believe in my ability. And teammates have said that I've never seen him like that. For some reason, he just got in his own head, and possibly for the first time, because with the athleticism of Michael Vick, confidence is something that this man has never lacked. So it was just a very interesting game. And, if you're a coach or a fan, the only positive that can come out of it is we could not really have played any worse in that game, but you still find a way to pull it out as Michael Vick takes them on a 90-plus drive with, a minute 17 to go to win that game with a 3-yard touchdown pass to Clay Harbor. And then the defense steps up big with an interception from Kurt Coleman, his second on the day, to seal the win. The defense was outstanding in this game. That definitely kept us in it, picking off Brandon Whedon 4 times, 2 by Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie and 2 from Kurt Coleman. So the defense played lights out. Trent Richardson spoiling his debut, only getting about 40 yards rushing on close to 20 carries. So that, if I can pull any positive from this, it's definitely going to be the way the defense played. and the offense definitely has to work it out. And I can almost guarantee you will not see a worse played game for the guys in green this season.
And for Philadelphia, you did mention earlier, and this was the obvious topic heading into Philadelphia after this game, with Brandon Weeden, perhaps no worse of a game, with throwing 4 interceptions on under 50% passing. It's not going to get it done. The Browns are just one of those teams with the quarterback situation as bad as it is right now. And then Trent Richardson, he played fullback for the New York Jets. He's obviously on the decline, a very tremendous player in his prime, but now he's heading towards the latter portions of his career. He's actually a rookie. Rookie running back, but I mean, it's not going to get it done for 2 rookies in the backfield and passing the football. Their best receiver, Mohamed Massakoff, only 3 catches. With the Eagles, they perhaps could not have gotten any more of a break than playing the Browns on schedule in Week 1 because of all the bad things that happened to the Eagles outside of McCoy. So many problems happening for the Eagles all day long until that final drive, as you mentioned. So for Philadelphia, nothing better than a Week 1 win with how bad they played.
Yeah, and it was definitely interesting to see, as McCoy took over the game in the fourth quarter, getting over 100 yards rushing by the end of the game when he did not get many carries the rest of the game. And I think that the thing that I scratch my head the most as an Eagles fan, Michael Vick threw the ball over 50 times, which he has never done, in his career. And it was interesting. And Andy Reid has actually come out and put some of the Vic's poor performance on him, saying, he had him throw the ball, way too much, and he should have, balanced out his game plan a little bit more. And I think what has to do with that, on the first drive, on LaShawn McCoy's first touch of the season, he fumbled the ball, which was his first fumble in about 350-plus attempts, touching the ball, that is. So, honestly, I think that kind of messed it up a little bit, because, Andy Reid, people always get on him for throwing the ball more than he passes, but the run-to-pass ratio is always a lot more even than that. So I think that definitely threw him off a little bit, put a little bit more than Vic was used to. That can't be the reason for all of it. He still made some poor throws, but I think that's one of the things you look at the most. He threw this ball over 50 times, which is something you've never heard Michael Vick do in his career.
Yes, of course. And for Michael Vick, I mean, with 2 TDs to 4, it's not going to get it done, that kind of a ratio. But obviously, it's nice to get it done. Get rid of the Browns in your schedule. Move on to your next opponent. You are 1-0 on the year. I believe. I'm just going to throw up the schedule real quick. The Eagles do have a more difficult stretch in the next coming weeks. A home game against Baltimore, obviously a tough Cardinals squad in their own house, and then a trip to the Giants. Obviously, for the Eagles, you have to shore up that offense. LaShawn McCoy is always going to be there. But for the Eagles moving forward, nothing more than ask Phil Nunziata on his predictions moving forward. How do you feel the Eagles, after such a bad loss, can rebound after giving up what was almost presumably a Week 1 loss?
Yeah, this is one of those games, you won the game, but you don't feel that you won the game. Looking back on it, it might be a big deal that they were able to pull this one out, but it's definitely something they have to look for. I think Michael Vick is going to come out focused in the next game. Andy Reid will have a better game plan for this Ravens defense. It's definitely something they're going to work on more. The Ravens looked great tonight, dismantling division rival Cincinnati, which I don't know exactly how much of that was the Ravens being dominant or how much of it was the Bengals maybe not being as good as they were, hyped up to be after what happened last year. So it'll be an interesting matchup. I think these teams will come out more focused. And, if I was a betting man, I could bet, my life savings, the Eagles would not have as bad of a game. I'm not going to go ahead and say, they're definitely going to win this game, but they'll definitely play better than they did in Cleveland.
And it's going to be a tough finishing stretch for such a talented football team to at least get some sort of an offensive rhythm. The defense is there. I mean, we mentioned earlier on in previous shows that the Eagles did lead the NFL last year with the most sacks. They're a tremendous defensive front, can get after the quarterback, can stop the running back. You mentioned 19 for 39. Trent Richardson was shut down, that's to say the least, in this ball game. He is a rookie, but the Eagles defensive front, probably the most underrated outside of the Raiders, with getting after the quarterback in the National Football League. Moving forward, Phil, I mean, some sort of a prediction. It's too soon to kind of right off the bat say how the Eagles will do, but what is your prediction on just how good the Eagles will play, or perhaps how bad after this one moving forward?
Well, before the year started, I still picked them at anywhere between 9-7 and 11-5. I do have them as a playoff team. The reason they could go as bad as 9-7 is the division they play in. The Cowboys obviously looking good. The Giants, might be taking a step back, and the Redskins looking better than anyone expected. So I see them as a playoff team. I don't really have a mark on their record necessarily, and this is definitely not how I thought the year was going to go. But I would still say that they're going to rebound from this and find a way into the playoffs. That's something I have some pretty good confidence about.
I would have to disagree with this one. We seemingly have more disagreements all the time. Obviously, I do see the Raiders winning this game, and we can go to a quick game update. I see there's another change of possession there over in Oakland. But for the Eagles, after this kind of a win, and they do have a tough stretch right off the bat, maybe an 8-8 football team again, but after that offensive performance, I cannot have them very high on my list of teams that are going to be winning their division. With the Giants and the Cowboys, they still play two terrific teams. That was a terrific football game on Wednesday night for the Eagles. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to be done for Philadelphia to get into the postseason with such a tough division in the NFC East.
Yeah, it's definitely, put up or shut up for them. This is a team, they have to rise up. They have to rise to the occasion, and they have to they are the one, not necessarily as much as last year, but a lot has been put on these guys to do something great with this team that they have. The owner of the Eagles, Jeff Lurie, has come out and said that this could be the year if Andy Reid does not have a deep playoffs push, something that people talked about for years about actually getting rid of Andy Reid. His job is officially on the hot seat for the first time since people have been saying it, legitimately being on the hot seat with Jeff Lurie saying so. So this is a team, they do have to rise up. And, this was a horrible game. The ugliest win I think I've seen as an Eagles fan that I've been since 1998. So it is definitely interesting to see a team that you're supposed to destroy, 31-10, was I'm pretty sure the prediction in the newspaper that I read Sunday morning. So it was definitely interesting to see that happen. But what it comes down to is how can they rebound from it? Because tough times don't last, but tough teams do.
Exactly. For Philadelphia, it's how do they rebound, and a lot of other teams around the National Football League, talented squads that will have to rebound. Nothing more than the Packers in a tough loss at home against the San Francisco 49ers. What can you get, Phil, out of this matchup where Alex Smith, I did mention before the regular season started, you have to pay attention to just how bad Alex Smith played throughout the first 5 years of his career. Then he has one good year, and everyone wants to go on the Alex Smith bandwagon. 1 week does not determine everything, but against a tremendous football team in the Packers, the Niners led by Alex Smith played extremely well. If it weren't for a questionable call with Randall Cobb going the distance, this thing could have been a blowout. For Phil, I mean, how do you see the Green Bay Packers, rebounding after this sort of a crushing loss at home?
Well, this team is definitely going to rebound from that. Here's another team that most people would say is going to be in the playoffs. People look at this Niners-Packers game, and it's, a lot of people could say it'd be an NFC title, preview, which, that's not a big stretch to say that at all. I think the Niners just, two teams like this, the two good teams like this, they can play each other 10 times, and you could probably get 5 wins from each team. It's a matter of who gets the better of you on any given day. And I think anybody will... we'll tell you, I think the Niners just took what the Packers had, and they were able to get it done. You look at, I'm not a huge fan of Alex Smith, but I think he's finally found a system where it makes sense for him. For the first time in his NFL career, Jim Harbaugh comes in and says, this is my guy. Yeah, we talked to Peyton Manning a little bit, but he believed in Alex Smith that he could win games consistently with this guy under center. And for the first time, as I said, in his NFL career, a coach, a team, an organization, a fan base really is getting behind him. And I could see, if the Niners are going to win a Super Bowl this year, next year, whenever it happens, you can look at, almost like the 2000 Ravens, having a great defense, a good running game, and a guy like Trent Dilfer, just a smart quarterback that knows what to do, knows where to put the ball. A team like that, or you say the 2002 Buccaneers, the same situation. I think Alex Smith could lead them to the promised land as, one of the better game managers of this league.
And we have a caller on the line after this heated topic. I'm sure, Cameron, you're all over this Bay Area matchup. The Niners winning 30-22 over the Green Bay Packers. And for Cameron Sadeghi, one of the co-commissioners over here at National Sports, Cameron, what was your take